alive. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da-dum, bum, ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da-da, bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, da 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 da. Da 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 ba da 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 da. Can you see me on Facebook yet? Dun, dun, dun. It's not loading. Oh, here it is. Here it is, I think. Dun, da, da, dun. Da, dun, da, da, dum, ba, da, dun, da, dun. Dun, da, dun, da, dun, 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 dun. There we go. Hey, hi, Elaine. Hi, Janet. Hello. Hi from Jupiter. Hi, Sheila. It started. Bump, 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 says Jane. Hi, Tammy. How do I get sound? Just get going. You're in. You're in. Hello. Hello, Noreen and Christiane. Says Michelle. Hi, Michelle from Chico, California, IA. Oh, it's so wonderful to see. Bel Air Beach, says Deborah. Noreen from, doesn't say. Hi from Albuquerque. So nice. Yes, Michelle's from Chico. These are all my mighties. Hello, mighties. Nice to see everyone. Now I can see everyone coming in from Facebook Live. Sue from Ohio. And Marie from Pennsylvania. Oh, it goes so fast. They just jumped down. Hi, Elaine's at both sides. Elaine, you're a double dipper. It's great. Falls Church, Virginia. I used to live near there. You bet. Tennessee and Ohio and Missouri and Long Island and North Carolina, New Zealand. Hi, Kara from New Zealand. Wonderful. Virginia, California. And watching from Walmart. Too funny. From Walmart. That's funny. Connecticut, Oregon. It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joette Calabrese, and I am here every Monday night. So, you're all looking pretty good. I can't see your faces, but I feel as though we're actually together because this has been going on. We've been doing this for quite some time, and it is really a blast. Mostly it's a blast because you give me the support and it makes it fun and you're right there. And here you are again every Monday night. And I just love it. And if you miss it, of course, then you can always watch another time. So if you don't know me, I'm a homeopath. I'm Joette Calabrese. I'm a homeopath for 34 years or so, something like that. I lose track. I go by the age of my oldest son. Around that time is when I started to study and use it. And I teach homeopathy and I use homeopathy. I used it exclusively for my children. They never got a drug all their live long days. And I brought them all the way up to adulthood with no Tylenol or aspirin or acetaminophen or any of those kinds of concoctions. And so now they're adults and they're pretty darn healthy. And it's a great way to live, folks. Come on in. The water is just fine. I'm sure you're going to love it. So tonight we're going to talk about a medicine that has got a lot of tentacles in many areas of human health and animals for that matter. So we're going to go into my Materia Medica, which is what we generally do every Monday night. I go over my Materia Medica. You don't need to use mine, but if you have it, that's great. If you don't, you want it, then contact go to my website and you'll be able to get it. And we're going to be talking about Staphysagria. And Staphysagria is made from delphinium. I mean, it is not just made from, it is delphinium, the flower, the lovely plant. Oh, it's not a very good image. I didn't hold up the book very well, did I? Let me bring it up a little bit better again so you can see it. Maybe that does it. There it is. Okay, now you can see it better. All righty, Materia Medica. So Materia Medica is really, what is Materia Medica? It's just an anthology of the medicines the medicines that we use in homeopathy. There are materia medicas for herbalists. There are materia medicas for other methods of medicine as well. We depend very fully on our materia medicas in homeopathy. I urge people to know their materia medica, learn it. That's why we do this every Monday night, to go through it and really learn it. And so Staphysagria is what we're going to be studying tonight. Staph, it's very phonetic. Remember, these medicines are always in Latin. Nobody comes up with any marketing terms, cutesy words like lunesta, a made-up name to make it sound like nesting and Luna, and it's so lovely. No, these are not marketing terms. These are words that are the actual substance from which the medicine is made, and Staphysagria is the Latin term for delphinium. So, delphinium, Staphysagria, it's a flower. Some people categorize some of these homeopathic medicines, and they say that certain flowers have this category of symptoms, these kinds of aspects of the periodic table. Those medicines that are made from the periodic table have another set of characteristics, and whether they're the noble gases or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very interesting stuff. You can get really lost in this because homeopathy is so in depth. And so, as I always say, intellectually delicious. This is the stuff that makes life super interesting. Not only because there's a lot of depth to these medicines, because it's God's medicine, because they're not patented, they're not synthetic, there are no side effects, they're inexpensive, they're easy to learn. And excuse my French, it pisses off the other side. Excuse me for being so crass, but it does. They can't stand it on the other side because they know their stuff is all synthetic and has lots of side effects. And by using them for chronic conditions, it's kicking the can down the road. They all know, we all know the jig is up. Wouldn't you say the jig is up? That's why the numbers of people who are following me and other homeopaths throughout the world are skyrocketing. It's amazing what is happening in the world of homeopathy. Now, will they shut us down? It could be, perhaps. But the reason that I do this is to make you aware for as long as I possibly can. But if you're so inclined, join my mighty members, Joette's mighty members. Just go to my website and just join. It's very inexpensive and it's private. It's a private server. We don't even share it with somebody else. We have our own absolutely private server. And I can say things there that I can't so readily say out in this big fat market square that we're all being censored from. So I'm going to talk about Staphysagria. And one of the best medicines I know for urinary tract infections, especially urinary tract infections that are related to honeymoon cystitis. You bet. So what does that mean? It means, and this is generally for women. Obviously, it's more because that's what affects women. Women who get urinary tract infections after having relations, afraid of getting infections after relations, having been given antibiotics time and time and time again, just because they had relations. This is the antidote. This is the answer. I will never tell you it's 100%. Nothing I'm going to teach you is 100% because we have too many variations in humankind. But generally speaking, this is the medicine that we use, and we usually use it in a 30th potency, sometimes a 200 potency. And if the infection ensues, and you don't even have to have it tested. You know, my friends, those of you who have suffered from this, you already know if you have an infection. You don't need to have it tested. You know the sensations, you know the experience of what's happening, the frequency, the burning or the aching or the stabbing or the urgency or the dribbling, whatever it might be coming as a result of a urinary tract infection, particularly, not always, but particularly the urinary tract infection that is related to relations, especially after the honeymoon. So it means that more relations, more likely the person's going to get an infection. or have these symptoms. So we use it in a 30th potency. And if it's an acute, which it generally is, but an acute means I have not had this for weeks. Suddenly, bam, now I've got it. Then we can use it every few hours or so. The first day, and then after that, as the condition abates, we open it up. We don't use it as frequently instead of every few hours. Oh, I feel better after, say, 3 doses. Let's go like every 6 or 12 hours. Okay, good. Next day, I'm fine. I'm really fine. Day 3, oops, coming back again. Okay, now we can start thinking about perhaps 2 to 3 times a day for a few days. And it's not necessary that this be taken, let's say, how do I say that? Consistently. You just need to use it when you need it in most situations. So I'm going to read from my book. This medicine also has a psychological aspect, which is unnecessary in order to use it. If there is a psychological aspect, then by all means, now we've got 2 legs of the stool. It's nice to have 3 legs, but if we only have 1 leg, that's fine. That's just a urinary tract infection. Actually, that's 2. Urinary tract infection associated with honeymoon cystitis or of sorts. But if the person also has this third psychological aspect, then I want you also to consider it as well. So I'm going to read from my Materia Medica because I think this is an interesting story, and I want to make sure that I have everything we need from it. Okay. Years ago, a man in his 40s came to me with a urinary tract infection. Now, this is rather uncommon for men to get urinary tract infections, particularly at this age. It usually happens in older men. It first presented after he was fired from his job of 15 years. He was still out of work with a family to feed and had lost his resource to seek comparable employment. Most of his time was spent on the couch, paralyzed by the humiliating event. He was shocked and embarrassed by the events that transpired, especially considering he was terminated over an incident that was not his fault. Rather than confronting his oppressors, he instead acquiesced and allowed himself to lose his job and his dignity. Despite high employment ratings year after year, his rationale was that he probably deserved to be fired, even though he didn't, and he knew that, but deep down. But this is kind of the rationale that occurs in sometimes in people's thinking. And a few doses of Staphysagria 200C, his bladder infection resolved, and he was able to begin seeking employment befitting of his stature in the workplace. The Staphysagria patient tends to avoid arguments, but can easily become irritated and angry. He may even throw things in a rage. All right, what does this story mean? This is an occurrence. This can happen to a woman who has a urinary tract infection. This can happen to a man. It can happen to a child. So what we're talking about is a sense of humiliation, a feeling as though they've lost control. Someone else has control over them. Doesn't that sound familiar? Like in the last year and a half that somebody else has control over our lives, and that the feeling a sense of inability to have full control over our own lives. Now, if it's just that, we stop. But if it's that and we end up on the couch like this man did, incapable of being able to go one step further, incapable of being able to see through his grief and his sorrow and his humiliation and his anger, the suppressed anger, and feeling as though perhaps it was due him anyway, that tug and pull of the psychological aspect. This is a great medicine for this particular psychological setting. But if the person also happens to have a urinary tract condition, doesn't have to have both, but if there is both of those, now we've got another aspect of the need for Staphysagria. So if you're not sure what medicine to use for, let's say, urinary tract infection, you're kind of lost, because generally speaking, if you look at my blog, I teach Cantharis is one of the first ones. That's one of my favorites. It's one of the first ones. But now let's say the person has this humiliating event that seems to be right around this time that the urinary tract infection is ensuing. My goodness, we've got a dead ringer for Staphysagria. And again, for this person, we just need a few doses twice a day. Staphysagria 200, I would use it for any time it's a psychological situation. Even if there is a urinary tract infection, we're going to use it. We're going to stick with the 200C. And it will sweepingly know enough. These medicines have, what do I say, innate intelligence? Why are they so intelligent? I'll remind you, because homeopathy is God's medicine. This comes from what God puts on the earth. God gave us delphinium. God gave us, what was the one we did last week? Stana metallicum, tin. God gave us the one before that, spongia, which is a sponge from the ocean. God gave us spigelia, which is pink root. God gave us these medicines. We, in our intelligence, or not us, it's really Dr. Hahnemann, got these plants, these minerals, these nutrients, minerals, metals, animals from the sea, and diluted them to a certain potency, 30C, 200C, because by doing so, it reduces the toxicity that may be present in this product or this plant or whatever it is, the original substances. And doing so, it brings forth the curative action. Praise God is right. Praise God for these medicines. Terry, you got that right. This is the stuff. This is the medicine we've all been looking for. You know how you used to go for a urinary tract infection? You'd go to the doctor and say, Doc, I got a urinary tract infection. And you'd get an antibiotic. Well, that looks like that's done, right? Oh, nay. Highly unlikely. More likely it's going to come back again. Maybe not 2 weeks from then, not 3 months from then, a year perhaps. You can't suppress those microorganisms without some fallout somewhere, but not so with homeopathy. Homeopathy is without side effects, not patented, not owned. No one owns delphinium. No one owns Staphysagria. It is given to us on the earth. And I want you to remember this, because no matter what happens in our world, no matter where you live, you need to know that these medicines are available. So keep your knowledge up really tight. Own as many medicines as you can afford. If you can't get medicines for some reason, I want you to know, have this knowledge, and you can actually make these should you need to. It's always better to get it from a pharmacy because they're much more meticulous, much more careful about it. But it is a very important thing that you know how to use these medicines. And if you need, you make your own. All right. Staphysagria is also used for insects. Now, what I mean by that is head lice. Head lice. How maddening is that? I always told my sons that if they ever got head lice, we're just shaving their heads. That's all. We're not playing around with combing through hair and using essential oils. We're not going there. I just said, just want you to know if it ever happens, we're shaving your head. Never happened. We lucked out on that. But Staphysagria is especially effective in the treatment of this type of infestation, especially in one who fits the emotional picture. But you don't need to fit the emotional picture. It's just a great medicine for that. It's also great for people who react to mosquito bites and the like. So in what potency might I use that? I think for head lice and for mosquito bites, I might stay with the 30th potency. I might stay low, use it 2-3 times a day for several days until, if it's a mosquito bite, until the mosquito bites are much improved. And they would be the itching would go down pretty dramatically so that the person would not suffer within a few hours of taking the medicines. Now, when it comes to head lice, you might have to stick with that for about a month at least, because head lice, as I recall, have a life cycle. I want to say 28 days. I might be wrong about that. So you want to get past the 28-day period, maybe even 2 months. Can this be used for plants? You bet it can. Now, I'm not saying Staphysagria is specific for lice for plants because of the head lice. I don't know. I've not spent enough time studying, but there are books out there and I urge you to learn about them. There are great books on homeopathy and plants, homeopathy and farming. Not a lot. I wish there were more, but they are really valuable. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. I don't want to miss. Okay. Consider this remedy for someone whose symptoms are worse from cold and better and harsh. Okay. And indignation usually aggravate the symptoms and should be okay. Indignation. I just have to tell you another story. I had a case of a little boy once who suffered from stomach pain. And so Staphysagria can also be for stomach pain. It's not one of our first choices, to be honest, but can be used as well. Because ever since a time that he was humiliated at school. The teacher said something, humiliated him, and then the children didn't let up. And it didn't take long for him to develop stomach pains. Now, we also have other medicines for that, but in this particular case, I had used other medicines. We had used others, and we had not found a good choice. Nothing that had been really acting until we used Staphysagria, and I used it in a 200 potency. As I recall, this was quite a long time ago. We used it twice a day for a few days, and as I recall, the stomach pain started to abate within a few days. He needed it every once in a while, which is no problem. When you need it, you use it. When you don't, you stop. All righty. Here we go. Turning Ranch Homeopathics for Gardens and Plants. They are on Facebook. Yes, great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Agro homeopathy. There's a regular column in hpathy.com. I was just interviewed on hpathy.com, which is an online monthly journal. You might want to catch up with that and watch that. Let's just see if we've got any other questions here. There are other uses for Staphysagria. And so in my Materia Medica, it's a very cursory book. It's just to give you it's like almost like a desktop guide. It's to get you started on knowing how to use a Materia Medica. But there are other Materia Medicas by the great masters. And I urge you to own those or get them online, etc. Use them. There's many that are online that are free. Okay. And people are asking about the plants book, and we got that. Physical attack. Yes, even a physical attack doesn't have to be psychological. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Okay. Let's just see. We use diatomaceous earth for head lice. Works like a charm. Worked for a friend of ours who had tried all the prescription shampoos. Yes, Dolly, thank you for saying that. I'm interested in knowing how often you did it. Did you puff that person a couple times a day? Did you use it for a month? Always, I think, because it's also great for that diatomaceous earth for fleas. So because of Buster's age, he's a little more prone to these kinds of things. And so we puff him with diatomaceous earth as well. And when we travel and we have to take him to places, the truck stops and all, where there are many dogs that have run in those areas and the state thruway, I am always a little more concerned about it because I think he's gotten them before. Yes, thank you very much. Liberty Veritas, colosynthis. Colosynthis is the same idea. Colosynthis is for stomach aches as well that are related to indignation. And so I actually used colosynthis for this boy, and it helped for a little while, but didn't hold, whereas Staphysagria did hold. So let's just see what some of our questions are. My husband bought me some remedies from the company Oleos or Oleos. Yes. I never remember how to pronounce that. I have to look at it closely. And ever heard of this company? Yes, I have. I don't know a lot about them. So I'm not going to comment too much. I've seen some good products coming from there. Let's put it that way. Yes, I use it for fleas and the cats. All right. Helios. Helios is in England. I've been using them for years. They're the ones who have remedies. If you're not a client or student of mine, Well, first, let me start with this. If you are a client or a student of mine, you can buy from OHM in Texas, and they carry a huge variety of homeopathic medicines. But if you're not, then the next one that you can find the more unusual medicines from is Helios in Helios in England online. We did it 3 times, says Dolly. We learned to put it in the hair, then periodically run the fingers through the hair, flip the head upside down and shake the head, etc. This was for a girl with long hair, so it needed to be worked through to touch all the lice. Yeah, very intelligent. Or you could get drugs and then it's absorbed in the scalp by the little girl. See how ridiculous it all begins to sound, doesn't it? Let's just get the bazooka out just to kill that little flea. We've got so many intelligent ways that have been suppressed and censored for so long that people have forgotten about them. And I'm getting us all back, and so are you. I want you to share this with people. Tell them to come to this, to Facebook Live. Tell them to this Facebook site. Tell them to go to my blog, my podcasts. Teach them how to do this themselves. Teach a man how to fish. Okay. Staphysagria. Thank you very much. I missed one very important point. Staphysagria is excellent for lacerations, clean lacerations. So after surgery, years ago, I had an ectopic surgery, and in those days, there was a cut from one pubic bone all the way to the other, clear across the abdomen. And that's what I used to keep from getting an infection and also to help with the pain at the incisional site. And so Staphysagria, I used 200C, and I think I used it just twice a day for those days when I had that from the day of the surgery, the day after, and probably for about 4, 5, 6, 10 days, something like that. So yeah, I would use it in a 200. You could also use it in a 30. I mostly use 30s and 200s. Sometimes there's 6s if I have specific protocols. Sometimes it's a 1M even, but more for the most part, 30s and 200s. Yep, there you go. And there, I think I answered that question. Yes, C-section surgery too. You bet, Karen. You bet. Any kind of surgery, because with a surgery, they're making a clean incisional cut, and that is the description of the need for Staphysagria. It helps with the pain at the incisional site. It keeps it from getting infected. It keeps the scarring from becoming cumbersome later on. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. Can this help with years-long kidney problems that probably started with UTI? Yes, it potentially could. It's not my first choice, but yes, it potentially could. Can you use Staphysagria for an old surgery wound? Yes. But if you're talking about, but I don't know what you mean by old, but my guess is if you're talking very old, you might be talking about actually having a scar, having scar tissue. And if there's scar tissue, Staphysagria is not my first choice, but I will tell you what is my first choice. And we haven't gotten to it yet in the Materia Medica. My first choice is thiocinaminum. Just the way it sounds, thiocinaminum. And it takes a while for that to act. And that one I use in a 6X twice daily. Horse had hematoma after a beating and no usual remedies worked. Horse displayed let me just see if I can read this a little bit better here. Where did that go? No unusual remedies worked. Horse displayed no emotional trauma, but I think it may have been suppressed, and Staphysagria maybe would have cleared it. Yes, it may have. What is the best general kit to own? You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I used to sell kits on my site. I don't any longer. I will tell you this. This is the criteria. Make sure it's one of the standard remedy of pharmacies that manufactures the remedies. Make sure that you want to get as many medicines in the kit as possible. I used to carry Washington. They might still carry them now, but they were out for a long time. There's been a run on these kits. So if you can get a kit with 100 remedies in it, that is where to start. because that kit, any kit in which you buy, and there are 100 remedies in it or 50, but 100 is always best. Anytime you do that, you're using that as your mother. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. Let's say you say, wow, this does look like a Staphysagria case. I think let's see, yes, Staphysagria. And you administer it and you say, you know what? I think it is a Staphysagria case. Now you order it because you don't want to use up that little tiny bottle from your kit. It's really just to test things out. And then you know this medicine is correct. Or you're on vacation and you have no ability to be able to get those medicines elsewhere. So you don't want to use the kit for everyday use if there are 100 remedies in it because the bottles are too tiny. Now, if you get a kit in which there are only 20 remedies in it, the bottles might be larger, and then of course you can start using them more readily and you won't run out. You just need to keep checking the Washington site, says Francine. It's in stock. Order the kit immediately. So you might want to do that. The 100 remedies of 50 potency. Oh, for goodness sakes. 100 remedies in the box, and they're all 30th potency, but for the last 9, and those are in 200 potency. And then you might want to get another kit with just the 200 potencies. Oh, here we go. Washington Homeopathic's been out of kits since last fall. So maybe they go. My experience with them is that they go in and out. They have it, they don't have it, they sell them, they don't have them anymore. But just keep owning, keep buying. All righty. Let's see if I've got any other questions. Yes, Joette, even my children know the mother kit. Laugh out loud. And let's just see. Some people are communicating amongst themselves. How about for a tween boy that doesn't like authority with anger issues? This came up as a possible remedy. Yeah, it's a possibility. I think it might be theorizing a little bit too much. Be careful you don't theorize. You want to see what it is. Angry teen. That's what you want. Not, gee, I wonder why. Now, if it was something that was obvious, he's been an angry teen ever since Saturday when he was made fun of, etc. But be careful that you don't dig too deeply. We don't want to use theory. We want to use what it is we are observing, what's really obvious. Okay? Angry teen. The word that I would use for that, I'm going to dash off now. I'm running late, but the word I would use for that would be I have written about a remedy that I think would be very valuable for that particular situation, if there's nothing more to it than just that. And it has a lot to do with teething. If that boy is teething, it could be a perfect fit. But even if he's not teething, it could still be a perfect fit. So I'm giving you a lot of information here. Just check it out. Go online, look at my podcast or my blog, and read for teething and anger and irritability and fractiousness. Fractious. All right, you got it, Monica. Thank you, Heather. Chamomilla, Monica. Leanne says has a chamomilla. You bet, chamomilla. Great medicine. Wonderful, wonderful medicine. I don't want to give you too much information in what's the remedy for this or what's the remedy for that, but I also don't want to leave you hanging off a cliff. The reason I do that is because I want you to dig around a little bit. The more you dig around on my blog or in other homeopath sites, the more you will retain, the greater the depth of your understanding. All right. Thank you, ladies and gents. It's wonderful to see you all. It is, I'm 4 minutes late. I've got to get to a group to teach, and I will see you next week. Mwah! Thank God for all of you. God bless you. God bless our families. Good night.